Hi, and welcome to the inaugural broadcast of Wrestling Roundtable Radio. It's been a long time in coming. We've discussed it a lot. It's, I believe, the next evolution of the show, and I think answers a demand that a lot of you have had. I think a lot of our fans have been asking, why aren't you doing this show? Where have you guys been? They think maybe we don't have enough to say. Maybe we just don't have that strong of an opinion of things going on, but that's not really the case at all. The fact of the matter is it's just hard to get the stars to align, so to speak, all the time. We all have day jobs. We're all very busy people. I was just in 5 different states and 2 different countries over the last 4 weekends shooting fake fighting and real fighting. And that's just me with a day job as well, not including flying. Everyone, I know, Jay, you go to school. In addition to working, Will, you got 2 jobs. Chris, you just got back from Vegas. Lawrence is always busy doing gigs all over the place. So just bear with us for the video portion of the show, but I think the radio portion, which is what you're listening to now, the premiere episode, is really going to answer some of the demand here. It's going to keep us up to date, going to keep us topical, and it will be able to allow us more opportunities to talk and give our opinions and our insight. Joining me here today is returning to the panel, finally, Lawrence Haber. How you doing, Lawrence?
Hey, Eric and everybody else. Good to be on the show.
All right. We also have Will Vafides. Hello, Will.
Hello, everybody. And remember that there is no left or right side that Eric can call us out on.
All right. Well, maybe east or west, depending on your location. We also have Sal Rendazzo returning to the show after a really long absence, about a year. Hello, Sal.
Hey, Eric and guys. How you doing? Nice to be back.
Glad to have you back. And we also have Chris Harris joining us. Hello, Chris.
Hello, hello.
All right, and we're going to talk about WrestleMania today. And WrestleMania 26, of course, the big show of the year. And a lot of people have been wanting to hear our opinions on the show. And right off the bat, I got to say that usually, as Lawrence has said on the show before, I'm not a huge fan or usually impressed all the time by the scenery, the set, the stage, and I usually pay attention to what is the wrestling. That's what counts, right? That's what everyone's buying. But this year I think was a little different. I was really impressed by the set, and that's not usually the first thing that comes out of my mouth when I talk about WrestleMania, but it was really impressive this year with the pyramid sort of setup and the huge scope. What'd you guys think of the set? Lawrence?
Well, you had the ancient Egyptian theme going in the middle of the desert, which I guess is apropos when you get 2 mummies going out there in the main event.
Zombie.
Yeah. In all seriousness, no. It was pretty cool, and I like you. It takes a lot more to impress me, but certainly with the HD rendering and the scope of WrestleMania in the last couple of years being a stadium show, it was a pretty great visual and definitely impressive. Absolutely.
I always enjoy WrestleMania sets. I think they are sometimes even better than Super Bowl sets because of how much time goes into that project. I don't know how many months, of preparation or even testing to make sure nothing goes wrong. You got to say, when you see WrestleMania, the atmosphere, the fans, the signs, there's nothing like it. I mean, I'm more drawn just to watch the show just because of what the scenery looks like. That's just my opinion.
Joining us also, Jason Aledo. I think we were having some trouble with your phone before, but you're on the air now. How you doing, Jay?
I'm doing great. I got disconnected. We're talking about healthcare, right? No, WrestleMania. That's it, WrestleMania.
Yeah, Jay finally got his phone to work. He's had his BlackBerry for 2 days.
Hey, man, disconnections, it happens,
If the government had your phone number, we wouldn't even be on the air. What'd you think of the set, Jay?
I thought it was great, man. The whole atmosphere of WrestleMania this year just looked phenomenal. The pop and pageantry, as they say, was great. They had kind of almost like the Egyptian thing going with the lighting over the crowd. It was like a red lighting. It looked really cool. I really enjoyed it.
Sal?
Yeah, Eric, I know you and I have talked before about how WWE's production overall is just really second to none. And
of all the
I
things
think
you can rip on them for, you can't rip on them for production. Maybe over-production sometimes, but not in this.
Yeah, but as far as their their TV production in general, like the graphics and everything are just fantastic. And you really expect something over the top in a good way with WrestleMania, and I think we really got that this year. I thought it looked fantastic.
I thought it did look really good. The last few years, I can't really remember even what they look like. They're so forgettable, including one that I actually attended live.
That's because you almost died.
That's true. I was dodging fireworks.
Explosion last year for those who are unaware.
But it definitely stood out more. You know, it seems like they upped it a little. Last year's was kind of bland from what I remember. It looked a lot better and memorable.
So it was the most unique setup they've had since they since they started doing these big stadium sets. It's the one, I believe, that stands out the most since about WrestleMania 19 at Safeco Field. But let's move on to the matches itself. It is, after all, WrestleMania, not Setamania. It opened with the, quote, unified, even though they're not really unified, but whatever, tag team title match between Show Miz and R-Truth and John Morrison. Lawrence, I walked in right in the middle of the tag match, so what'd you think of it? Did you see any of it?
If you walked in the middle, it would be about 5 seconds longer than it actually was, because it was quick and forgettable. I think the point of getting everybody on the show and making up for last year's lack of the tag titles, which were unified on the pre-show, I think, was a nice addition, albeit brief, and it's good in a way, I think, above everything else that in that pointless match that Miz was on the show, because he is a rising star for them, and it's good to have him on WrestleMania in an opener.
What do you think of this match, Will, between two thrown-together tag teams? One seems to be working, the other doesn't.
You got to look at the fact that for the first time, the Miz actually came out in a wrestling outfit. I think that was probably the most significant part of the match, just because he looked like he belonged in WrestleMania just on his look. So, to me, when you see him come out like that, he looks great. You know, you also got the tag match. Yeah, I mean, at least there was a tag match. I mean, that's
a rarity.
Yeah, at least there was a tag match. I mean, come on. We used to watch WrestleManias when it was WrestleMania 6. They used to have 3-minute matches. So what's the difference if this one's 5? At least they're on the show. If they had a 5-minute match, well, they did the best 5-minute match they could do.
I'm torn because it's good just to get the tag titles on WrestleMania at this point, I guess, but I don't know how we got to that point. I don't know. Yeah. Well, we've talked about opening matches and how an opening match, is just meant to get the show started and get the fans into it. But I don't know if that's necessarily the spot for a tag match. And then just with Morrison and Truth being thrown together like they were, it was just, it was kind of rough.
Well, a great opener tag match was Rockers Orient Express at Rumble 91, but I'm dating myself. Chris?
Well, I actually got up to pay the pizza guy, and when I came back, it was done. So, from what Tim and Alex Payne told me, that it was pretty good. So I'll take their word on it.
Yeah, Miz just looked like a star. He looked like he wanted to be there. He looked really pumped up to be at WrestleMania finally. Even though last year he was on the show, but the pre-show, it was short and sweet and to the point, and it got Miz and the show over a little bit more than they already were. So I think it served its purpose.
Well, speaking of short and sweet, that brings us to Cody Rhodes, who came out looking naked for that triple threat match with Randy Orton and Ted DiBiase. I was really blown away by the superstar reaction that Randy Orton was getting. And obviously with that spaceship-esque Videotron that they would lower in the middle for those big, spectacular poses for victory.
I think they bought that at U2's garage sale.
Well, Randy Orton has gotten so over, and it's amazing how over he is now compared to when they turned him face the first time in 2004, and it really just shows exactly what they did wrong in 2004. He was starting to get over as a heel, and then they turned him face and took away all the characteristics that people fell in love with in the first place and turned him into some lame duck chicken shit babyface, whereas now he's kind of made that gradual evolution that The Rock did when he was a heel, where he pretty much became a babyface by the fans. And the fans are reacting huge to Randy Orton now, and I think that triple threat match, short and pretty lame as it was, and it did have a good finish. I like the RKOs. They looked pretty crisp and sweet. But I also think Randy Orton dominating those two as he did sure made them look pretty much like jobbers. What do you guys think, Lawrence?
Well, I agree with you in that Randy Orton has ascended to an unbelievable level and is on the way to bigger and better things if they don't make the mistakes, which they tend to do. But in that match, I was more drawn to the fact of how much the plans have changed because the fans have demanded Orton being the face. I mean, at one side there were so many rumors about, at this point this year, DiBiase facing Undertaker, and,
sure.
and they had to blow off the legacy thing. And although the match itself was anticlimactic, it definitely did serve the purpose of bringing Orton to another level, but did remind me of how quickly stories can change to suit what the people actually want. So we'll see where we are next year with Orton.
Well, I guess the more key thing, because Orton's had the world title multiple times, but I think the key thing is to see where DiBiase Jr. is in a year, because he's the guy that we've always been hearing for a while has been pegged as the next guy, but the next guy to speak his will. What'd you think?
The double DDT was really cool. I mean, it was very slow in the very beginning. The very last couple minutes were pretty good. The fans really started getting into it a little more. Again, it did three purposes. Cody Rhodes, take him out because he doesn't have much talent. You have Ted DiBiase Jr., who is now wearing the $1 million belt, trying to build him up as a single star and basically break up Legacy completely. And Orton, just because, Orton is Orton. He's lost a couple years. He got over pretty well, and the sign coming down was pretty cool. And he did his pose where he put his arms out. When was the last time we saw that? I haven't seen that in a long time.
Did you guys see the angel wings that he had behind him? There was angel wings on his spaceship.
It's like Randy Orton became a living affliction shirt.
You got a couple of those. They're pretty cool.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with that. The match was basically what I expected going in. I'll give them credit for making it a three-way as opposed to a handicap match, even though it doesn't seem like a big deal. It's just I always hate it when the person at the disadvantage wins a handicap match. I feel like it makes the other guys look weak. So it may be a small difference, but I
think it is, because that's essentially what it was.
Yeah, but Cody Rhodes is what he is, I think, at this point, and the match is really all about Orton. I do have to call WWE out on one thing. As great as their production is, they kind of missed the punt in that match. They had like a bad camera angle for that. That's not something you see often, but I definitely got to call them out on that one.
Chris?
It's very interesting to think about this evolution of Orton, because it was
evolution.
He really was the most hated guy. Him and Edge were like the most hated guys a year ago, and now they're the top baby faces. But I would have liked to have seen a little more teaming up between Cody and Ted, because it was pretty obvious that they were just getting their asses kicked the whole time.
I like how Will said that this ended Legacy completely. If I'm not mistaken, haven't they had dissension since the very first day they formed together?
Yeah.
Oh, that was to build Orton's character. I mean, that was because Orton's like taking out their fathers. He's taking them out, trying to teach them lessons.
I hope he paid for dinner. He's taking them out.
But the point is to break the Legacy group up, fully, 100%, just to move everybody forward to the next thing. And WrestleMania is all about ending feuds or beginning them, or now lately continuing them, whatever they want to do.
It probably should have won on first. I would have put it on first before Big Show and Miz, because Randy Orton just got the biggest face pop to the night at that point, obviously, but it just really got him over as a babyface, and it could have gotten the show started on a very high note. But what I would have done is had more Randy versus Ted, because that's obviously where they're going with the two being single stars, because we haven't seen Cody since. So I believe that it could have.
I think Cody's going to be on the next season of NXT.
Yeah, you're probably right. It could have been done a lot better, but for it was worth, man, it gave us 9 minutes of a blow off to Legacy, basically. So it is what it is.
If there is another NXT, but the next match was the Money in the Bank match. Hoo boy, I'm not a particular fan of Money in the Bank, and I think a lot of people who are into WWE's product, at least in the past several years, seem to have a tendency to, and I hate to use the word mark, but I think they do mark out in the sense of being a sucker for just adding a ladder to a match makes it great. I'm not particularly keen on that, because to me, the whole purpose of the ladder match, the Money in the Bank match every year is to give the black guy a cute creative spot and then someone else wins. The whole purpose of the match is really just to do a bunch of high spots we've seen before and then one cool, new, innovative one, and that's the whole purpose. And the secondary purpose, of course, is to cram more people in so they get WrestleMania payoffs. But, hey, $40,000, $50,000 for 2 minutes work, not bad. All right, 8 minutes, whatever. But I did enjoy the Kofi Kingston spot this year where he was climbing up the ladder, and I'm glad Jack Swagger won and has since gone on to become a seemingly lame duck champion, because I don't think that if Brock Lesnar won the world title in 2002, they'd have him losing to someone else on the next Raw. But all the same, what'd you think, Lawrence?
The point of the match in their logic is to elevate someone new, and I guess the opposite of what they have gotten right with Orton, they've gotten wrong with Kofi Kingston, who in only November was on his way to being the next big single star.
Well, they could just pretty much call this match the Black Hole, because all the black wrestlers with potential just end up stuck there.
But I was hoping to see Kofi get the win there and have people wondering, is he going to cash it in tonight? Which they haven't. They haven't put that trigger yet, which they will eventually, I'm sure. But regardless, it's nice to see Swagger win. But then you just put it in the correct terms that he already looks like a lame duck champion, and as he did with Sheamus, it's a typical bait and switch where you think something new is going to happen, but it's probably going to end up with Edge or Orton or Cena or Batista as champion.
I marked out the first time the match was even announced, like in WrestleMania 21, I believe. It's just a tradition match now. It's a great match just to get people to buy the show. I mean, that match, no matter when it was, you always seem to mark out at least one point in the match. I mean, it's a great match. It's different. It's something like tradition, like the Royal Rumble. That's what it is now. It's part of WrestleMania. So, to me, I enjoyed the match. I like when surprises happen. Swagger winning it. Took him 3 minutes to do it, but he got it. And, the fact is it's supposed to elevate new stars, and it does it every single time. It doesn't matter if they're a champion for 1 month or not. The point is, someone new always wins, and someone new gets built. Nothing wrong with building new stars, so I like it.
Swagger didn't do himself any favors by taking forever to get the case down, but I thought the match was decent, what you'd normally expect. The only real gripe I have with it is I feel like they kind of telegraphed his win. When he came out with the new gear, I know we talked about this today, Eric, like a lot of people bust out new gear for WrestleMania, but there's kind of like a new, almost like a, makeover, like a new look. And even my wife, who just kind of watches rarely just because
Wait a minute, you have a wife? I thought Roundtable was all virgins who spend all day on the Internet.
Well, just because he's married doesn't mean that he's still not a virgin.
Hey, come on. So even though she watches only because she's forced to, she even called like, oh look, must be getting a push. He's got a new gear. He's probably winning. So if she can call it, then it's it's pretty obvious, I would think.
Memo to WWE: don't change wrestlers' clothes anymore at WrestleMania. You're giving too much away.
When we were watching it, none of us really were sure who was going to win it. Maybe it's from not following for the last few months. I'd only seen an Elimination Chamber. I didn't even see Royal Rumble this year. It's been a long time since I'd really watched wrestling. There was no clear winner, and a lot of the rumors were on Drew McIntyre. Right. I'm glad they went with Swagger, because that was kind of unlikely for the people I was watching with. We didn't expect that, but at the same time, you knew
they haven't done a thing with him for about a year.
Yeah, the last thing I remember was he was ECW champion, then he was losing to like Santino for a while. And now he's champion. That makes perfect sense. So it's kind of cool to see a guy like that win it. But at the same time, they're going to rush through this because they have a Money in the Bank pay-per-view coming up this summer, and they're not going to have two guys walking around with these briefcases.
That can't work.
Yeah, that's TNA's job. Jay?
Yeah.
The only thing I liked about Money in the Bank this year was the victor, was Jack Swagger. I thought that it was the worst Money in the Bank we've ever seen. The star power was down. The high spots were down completely. There was no real dives outside the ring. And I really think they just watered it down this year. I was very disappointed with Money in the Bank. And they had, 10 guys in it? How many guys do you really need in this match? They did a horrible job with it. And I'm really not looking forward to the apparent pay-per-view they're going to do, a Money in the Bank pay-per-view. I think this year's WrestleMania kind of watered down the concept, and they better pull something good at the pay-per-view to draw some buys, or else it's not going to work.
If you thought there were too many people in it this year, you're going to be real disappointed in the next couple of years, because they're actually going to keep adding people, because there's a secret stipulation to Money in the Bank you may not realize. You can't not be in a Money in the Bank match until you win. That's why Shelton Benjamin's in it every year, Christian's in every year, Kane's in it every year, Matt Hardy's in every year. They have to win one, or else they're going to be stuck in Money in the Bank for every WrestleMania year.
I bet you at this pay-per-view there's going to be at least two of them, too. There's probably going to be, one for each brand.
Mm-hmm.
And how many high spots can they possibly do? You know what I mean?
Shelton's
it's going to water down the concept.
They're going
They
to
need Kofi now to bring it in.
Moving on. Someone who we're not used to seeing this early in a WrestleMania, Triple H, within the first hour of WrestleMania. Wow. Taking on the guy who spots his bench presses, Sheamus. I was actually looking forward to this because, as I've been saying on the show for several years now, I didn't want to turn my reviews of WrestleMania into a broken record because it did feel like WrestleMania was a broken record every year. Same story. But I did enjoy the fact that you had someone who's established. In case you don't know, Triple H has been main event level for about 11 years now. I did enjoy seeing him in a different role, away from the world title, away from the same people he's been fighting for all those 11 years, away from a prominent thing sort of like that, and into the mid-card where he can potentially elevate someone else, whether it's giving them a really great match and then defeating them with a close victory, or by putting them over. But that's Triple H. Either way, I'm not even one of these people that's going to jump on the bandwagon like they resent the fact that Sheamus is getting this push or has gotten this sort of spot because he's Triple H's buddy. I don't even mind Sheamus that much. I think he's okay. I love his look. I think he's unique, and I like that it's somebody new. I wish he had a last name again because this isn't Power Rangers. But all the same, I thought it was a pretty decent match. What do you guys think, Lawrence?
I guess the point again was to elevate Sheamus through either a win, a surprise win, or a great match, and it was a good match. And I think the fact that the announcers, who have been atrocious in the last few years, particularly Michael Cole, kept telling us how much of a classic it was, with emphasis on the classic.
Tell them it's a classic. Tell them it's a classic.
It definitely diluted it, and it just became a forgettable mid-card match that leads to drawn-out Sheamus Triple H for the next 3 months, where Sheamus will get a token win on a B-show pay-per-view and end up back in a feud with Evan Bourne, more likely than not, even though Triple H is waiting.
The match served its purpose. You know, it was a good match. It was probably one of the top matches on the card, in my view. The finish was great. I thought that was a great surprise pedigree. It doesn't make Sheamus weak because he got caught by a surprise. So it's it's a rookie mistake kind of move. So it makes it look like, okay, Sheamus got caught, So to me, it served its purpose. It was a good match. Sheamus did not deserve to go over on WrestleMania. He just started out, to me.
So what?
No.
You could have said that about Brock.
Brock had a whole year to get over. Then he went to WrestleMania. So to me, Sheamus has only been around a few months. He hasn't been around.
What difference does it make how long he's around?
Because Triple H jobs every year, and everyone knows that he jobs a lot at WrestleMania. You got to give the guy credit for jobbing all the time. Let him get a win.
Make it for the rest of the year that way.
Yeah, you got to give more. You got to give more credit to Triple H than people give him. Yes, he may be a political guy in the back, but he does perform every time he goes out there. So I give him credit for that.
Sal?
Let me say, I was down on Sheamus for a while, and he's definitely grown on me over the last several weeks and a couple months. But I think the match was definitely better than I expected. The only downside to it is maybe a week or two before, Triple H cut the promo on Sheamus where he says, these guys that have beaten me at WrestleMania have gone on to have spectacular careers, and the people who lose are forgotten. And then Sheamus goes on to lose. And they showed a little clip of Booker T where you don't even see his face, but yeah. So then Sheamus goes on to lose. Now that's okay because, like we said, we know how feuds work. If he eventually gets the win back and comes out, then he can definitely come to the next level from the feud. So it looks like they are continuing on. So we'll see how it plays out, and hopefully he'll get a rub from it.
Chris.
Just to go back to that promo real quick, does beating Triple H, and bring you to greater things, does murdering your family fall under greater things? I'm a little confused there. But it was a good match. I'm surprised, that Sheamus didn't get the win. It was really looking like he was going to get it. He is Triple H's boy, so putting him over isn't a big deal. But it's obvious he's going to get the win in Extreme Rules and the Street Fight or whatever. And, but this guy is going to be a star soon. You can tell.
That's going to be the only thing about him that shines besides his skin. Jay?
Sheamus made me a believer in this match. They told a really good story. Triple H.
Then you saw his face?
What, Sheamus?
You're a believer?
Well, no, I'm saying I was not a fan of Sheamus in his title run. I thought it was pushed too quickly, but
there's not a
really...
trace of doubt in your mind.
But
Are you in love?
Really... No, absolutely not. He really put on a great performance with Triple H. Triple H went all out for him pretty much. But I think Triple H deserved to win the match, especially on a big stage like WrestleMania, and it's obvious Sheamus got his heat back at Extreme Rules. So I thought it was good. I thought they did a good job.
The thing I keep hearing about is CM Punk and Mysterio got too little time, but they did good with the little time that they had. I like that this is the second time in Rey Mysterio's career that he is in a match where the stipulation is he has to join a faction that he doesn't agree with if he loses, just much like the LWO 11 years ago. And much like joining the LWO, there's no way he was going to join the Straight Edge Society because they're against using drugs, and that doesn't match up with what Rey Mysterio stands for. What do you think, Lawrence?
I thought it was a good, high-energy, fast-paced match, and I think
it was a good match.
It was definitely helped a lot by the fact that up to that point there hadn't really been anything, including Money in the Bank, that had that kind of pacing. And I don't know if that's really a compliment to Mysterio and Punk, who had a great match, or if it's criticism on the way the show had been up till that point. But I enjoyed it.
What I loved the most was, again, CM Punk using his, talking skills, going down the ramp, talking while he's going down there. He's using that a lot lately, which is great. And the match, I thought, was, again, a great match. As short as it was great. The only problem I have is...
What was short, Mysterio or the match?
Anyway, continuing on before I was rudely interrupted, Eric. Basically, the Straight Edge Society needed a win just because it can build the stable. To me, the stable really has been the same. Nothing's really been built, and they need to get, tag belts, another member that doesn't agree with them, a surprise heel turn by somebody, just to get the group going to really
How
build.
do you turn heel in the Straight Edge Society? Do you just eat a bunch of pills?
It's kind of like the right to censor. It's kind of like the same idea, except it's just that you don't use drugs, you don't use alcohol. And, when you have a guy who doesn't agree with the group and has forced to join it, it's more intriguing, so that's all it's about. And to me, I thought the match was good, but I thought it should have been the other way around. I thought CM Punk's group deserved to get a push, and it doesn't seem to not be getting a push.
Building a stable like the Amish. Sal?
Do we know the time of the match offhand? Anybody? I'm just curious.
Yes, it was 6.5 minutes.
Okay, so that does seem a little bit short, but the thing is, it seems like the build up to WrestleMania, if you read the dirt sheets, that these guys have been working on this match for a long time, and that kind of got me hyped about it. I think Ray is one of the best workers in the world right now. I think Punk's a really good worker and one of the best characters. As bad as I thought the character was when they first gave it to him, I think he's done a lot with it. So I was really looking forward to this match, and it kind of didn't really live up to my expectations. I can't really put my finger on it. Maybe it is the time, but I think they did make pretty good use of the time. I think Ray definitely should have gotten the win just because of the way they built the angle with his family and everything. I think it kind of would have made him look weak to come out on a losing end on this one.
Plus, if he had won, that pretty much ends it, and they want to keep this going. And From what everyone's been saying, they've been tearing it up on SmackDown, and we know from Armageddon 07, I believe it was, they had 07 or 08, one of them, they all meshed together after a while. Whatever Armageddon it was in the past few years, that they had a really good one-on-one match, that they are capable of having some good matches, and I thought this was one of them. What do you think, Chris?
I thought it was a good match. It was probably the sleeper match of the night. It was high-paced, could have gone longer. But the best part to me was getting to see Eddie's son Dominic tower over Ray now in the promo video leading up to this.
I thought the match was good. I really liked the fact that they skipped all the rest holds and really the psychology of a great match, because the criticism has been that it was too short. I think Mysterio winning was perfect, as I think Punk will end up coming out on top in the feud in general because they seem to be pushing him in the stable in a big way. And I don't know. I think they'll do a lot at Extreme Rules to make up for the time constraint they had at WrestleMania.
Well, I don't know if there's a way to make up for the no-holds-barred match that came after it between Bret Hart and Vince McMahon. A match that's been pretty much universally panned, if not begrudgingly. my take on this match is that, yes, I was disappointed with everyone else, and not in the fact that I was looking forward to Bret Hart coming back, because I was not. I think we all should have known that Bret Hart wasn't particularly capable of putting on the, let's say, 5-star classics we remember from, let's say, the early 90s. That's not what we, of course, were truly expecting. However, in the street fight format, I think even with Bret Hart's Lloyds of London limitations, obviously he's not going to be taking shots to the head, he's not going to be taking bumps, he's not going to be doing this and that. The whole purpose would be to kick Vince McMahon's ass. I think in a way PG really hurt this street fight, because if any match was begging for a bloody Vince McMahon shot, it was this. But Linda does need to get elected to Senate, so it was pretty benign, and I think it went on way too long, and even Bret Hart of old was capable of doing better street fights than this. I don't believe that Bret Hart came back for the money, which is a popular belief. I think he's the type that would have saved that Turner money, if nothing else, all the money from WWF he gained over the years. He just seems like the sort of character, and I mean character in a real-life sense, that is very concerned about his legacy. That's why he intervened on the Screwed the Bret Hart Story DVD and made sure that this new generation can see the true presentation, at least in his eyes, of Bret Hart with the DVD, came back for the Hall of Fame. He's concerned about his legacy, and I think he wanted to come back to do this storyline for tying up the loose ends purposes. However, I think they gave him way too much time, and it really killed the crowd, and in a way, no one wanted to be bored with it, wanted to be upset with it, wanted to hate it, but it was pretty much garbage, wouldn't everyone agree?
Well, I think it's one of those weird things where I feel like a hypocrite, because for all these years everyone says if Bret came back to fight Vince, he should just kick the crap out of him for like 15 minutes. And that's essentially what they did, but the execution of it was just really poor, and they went the Vince Russo route with, swerve, double swerve, swirl, triple swirl, double chocolate swirl in the first 2 minutes of the thing, and then, just the limitations physically on both guys, plus the Linda thing of you really can't do blood, turned it into this bizarre, strange, awkward part of the show. And I really think the big thing that dampened it was the selling point of that show was going to be that match, until they did such an unbelievable job of getting the Michaels-Undertaker point across. And I think people just weren't that excited about seeing Bret and Vince, Bret in his jeans and T-shirt and sneakers versus 60-year-old Vince go out there and do what they did. So
I think the build-up was pretty good on TV.
Oh, yeah, it was good.
It was good, but I don't think people bought the show to see that match, and I think the live crowd popped for the entrances, and then once they started getting into the silliness, and then they realized what it was going to be, with Bret just like throwing these punches and flailing weapons around me, the crowd was just like, all right, enough, we get the point, put him in the sharpshooter.
I can't believe there wasn't even one low blow. And by the time, on Bret, because we saw he took it on Raw in months past, but the fact that he was going for the sharpshooter the first time, teased it, everyone was like, okay, good, this is mercifully ending. But then he continued. We were like, what do you think, Will?
I'm a Bret Hart fan. I watch Bret Hart.
I think we all are.
Well, he got me into wrestling, not in 91. So this is when Bret Hart wasn't even mainstream yet. The pink sunglasses and everything, which I was really ashamed, because I thought they were going to sell the pink sunglasses again. I would have bought a pair. I would have bought a couple pairs. It is what it is. It was like Bret Hart. This is for Bret Hart. It was for the fans too, but it seemed like it was more about Bret Hart just kicking him, kicking his ass. What I didn't like was the swerve right in the beginning of the entire match. I thought it would have been better if they did the swerve somewhere in the middle or the end. So to me, the swerve in the beginning, it just doesn't fit. You don't swerve, you don't come out and then 1 minute all of a sudden swerve the whole idea. It would have been nice.
You don't have to do a swerve at all with a bunch of people no one even recognizes.
No, they didn't have to do it at all. Period. I thought maybe with the Hart Dynasty, because they were heels, maybe just that alone would have probably worked. I gotta give it. Vince took a nice little heart attack on the outside of the ring. It looks like he hit his head. He actually took that pretty well, actually. I thought that was probably one of the best moments of the match, was that alone. And the sharpshooter. It was long. It is what it is, but it ends in Mr. McMahon character, which is, we needed that. So
it ends in Bret Hart doing exactly what he said for all these years he wouldn't do, turn Montreal into a storyline.
Well, who would have thought that if this match were to ever happen, that Vince would be the one to take the big bump and Bret wouldn't take any? I think that's kind of funny. But, it's like Lawrence said, what everybody wanted to see.
We're also past the stature of limitations here, where I think it's long past the point where anyone was even having that match in mind or looking forward to it. But I know a bunch of us our age was looking back into it for a little bit around January.
Well, I think they did build it up pretty well, but of course it is a few years too late. But they did what they could. I don't think that I agree about the swerve. I think that the match could have just started and they could have maybe saved that for later. It really did feel like it went on for too long. It's nice that they got the Hart Dynasty involved, but I think they could have done it a little bit better.
Well, earlier, I'm surprised they waited till WrestleMania. Well, maybe not I'm surprised, but it does kind of suck that they waited till WrestleMania to do something with his own fucking family.
It's like they kind of threw them in at the last second, like they weren't sure if they should or not. And I think those guys are actually pretty good. Like they're one of the or two of the younger guys that I really like in the company, and it would have been nice to see them involved a little bit earlier. But the match is kind of what people were looking for, but maybe just a little too long and just a little too PG, I guess.
Hitman Harris.
It's so odd to think that of all people, like, I've always wanted to see come back, Brett, and it was just like leading up to this, I was like, I don't care. After all these years, I made it a point to go to WrestleMania a couple of years ago for Flair's last match. By coincidence, I got to see Hogan's and Taz's last WWF matches, and I briefly thought of going to see this for Brett's, but I was like, you know what? It's just going to be bad. I have all those memories at SummerSlam '97 and everywhere else as a kid. WCW house show we went to, I think he was there, and that's not a memory that I wanted. I'm glad I didn't go because that match was brutal to sit through. There's no reason that match should be 15 minutes and Punk and Ray get 6.5.
Jay?
This match was absolutely atrocious. I love the build-up to it. I thought it was pretty well done. It kept intrigue, and it informed a lot of the newer fans.
Hold on. We are hearing way too much good. We're supposed to be completely negative and hate everyone.
I'm getting there.
No more of the word good.
I'm getting there. I think it really helped inform the younger audience of who Bret Hart was and who Bret Hart hopefully would have been. But I fucking hated this match. Where was the Russian leg sweep? Where was the side backbreaker? Where was the second rope elbow?
You can't take bumps.
Here's my defense on that. The guy had a stroke, so how much can he possibly do with a stroke? I mean, have anybody here on this line had a stroke before?
No.
If I'm physically not able to take a head bump, then I'm not going to...
Just because he had a stroke, though, is no excuse for wearing jean shorts.
Yeah. Why couldn't he get in his tights? Why couldn't he wear the shades? I think there was a few things they could have flipped about this match that would have made it more memorable and a lot better. And I really was Vince when he had the crowbar or whatever it was, would have wiped out the entire Hart family with it. They all run up to him, and he just drills all of them and becomes Bret Vince one-on-one with no bullshit outside the ring. I would have liked him to hit Diana over the head with it. I think that would have been great.
Oh, my God.
Well, he was going to run over her with a car. Let's make that clear. Also, to clarify, it wasn't the stroke. It was post-concussion syndrome after a month of concussions that kept Bret Hart out of wrestling, and then a stroke happened a couple years later. So a combination of those factors are pretty much why Bret Hart wasn't going to be doing anything. But moving on, the WCW Big Gold Belt, whatever the hell, world title match, Jericho and Edge. I really don't have that much to say about this match. Edge, I don't buy as a babyface. Everyone knows that I'm not a big Edge fan at all, or any sort of Edge fan at all, but seemed like the crowd was kind of turning on him at the end. Maybe they don't buy him too much as a babyface either, or maybe they're just pro-Jericho. I like the finish. Jericho has really turned the Codebreaker into a legit move. I goofed on him on the show when he first stole it from Naomichi Marufuji when he came back a couple years ago, but he's stuck with it. He's made it good. He's got a lot of good reversals with it, and it was an okay match, but nothing I'm into personally. What do you think, Lawrence?
I think Jericho has been phenomenal in the last year and a half plus with this character. The fans absolutely love to hate him, and Edge came back for this feud that really started with almost no history. They were tag team for a week, and then he ripped on him after the injury, blah, 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 leading to this WrestleMania match. And so really to have Edge go over with that much hype, but yet that little of a storyline to back it up, it wasn't appropriate. So I think they did the right thing on two levels. One, by having Jericho, who deserves a decent title run, even though it lasted only a few more days after WrestleMania, keeping the belt and prolonging this feud that they want to do. I agree with you, though. I think the fans are very lukewarm on Edge as a face. It's clearly not the same reaction that Orton has right now. And the match,
especially after Edge loses, and I know the spot with the spear is supposed to make up for it with a moral victory, but I don't think anybody bought it.
And they really drew the fans in the last last sequence or so, last few minutes. There was a great reaction from the crowd. And I actually thought it was the best match on the show up to that point, counting Mysterio punch. So purpose served.
Yeah, it definitely was one of the best matches of the night. Again, Jericho getting what he deserves, a main event match, WrestleMania. Again, maybe not people are buying into the Edge character because they just don't understand. Like, it just doesn't make sense either. I don't like it, but they need a big face on that show. And Edge is the only person that can probably pull it off at this point. So honestly, great match. I thought the spear at the end was kind of cool. It was kind of a good way to keep Edge on top in a way. And that's a great match. Overall, I thought it was one of the best matches besides one other match. It was good.
I have to agree. I don't like all this agreeing typically, but this was the best match on the show to this point. I think Jericho is just so dependable, and he's just always succeeds in whatever they ask him to do. What's that?
Never mind.
No, I know you love to rag on Jericho, Eric, but he's one of my favorites.
I'll take him over Edge any day if it's a concert.
Yeah, I know you will. Edge, it's tough. I think the build-up to this match was kind of strange with the whole spear. I think it was a little one-sided up until the last week or two before WrestleMania. But I think it's good for Jericho to come out on top because it's like Lawrence said. I don't think it really made sense. I didn't feel that Edge winning just really made much sense. And it's kind of a shame that he was injured for so long because I think that a lot of people kind of forgot about the storyline with him getting hurt and then Big Show replacing him. And if he could have come back a little bit sooner, maybe it would have helped. Maybe I'm not sure, but I definitely do think it was a good match.
What do you think of these two blonde Canadians, Chris?
There's nothing bad you could say about the match. I mean, I think that Jericho and Ray have been the top workers pretty much on pay-per-view the last couple of years, and you knew you were going to get a great match out of this. It's horrible that Edge is the good guy going in. Who would have thought Edge and Christian are like two of the top baby faces now when they were both better as heels? But it's also nice to see, Jericho use the belt. You don't really see that in a main event of WrestleMania. It's something a little different.
Well, thank God Jericho won the match. He really deserved the big WrestleMania win after years of jobbing and just being put in terrible situations with Mickey Rourke last year and Money in the Bank at WrestleMania 24 and so on. But I really hated the build-up to this match, man. The Edge Spear thing was so corny. It was really stupid. It was very annoying. And I just think this was a way to continue the feud because it looks like they're putting their cards on the table with Edge as a babyface, and I think he's going to obviously come out on top when the feud is said and done. But I really think Jericho deserved to win. I thought it was a good match, and they got the job done at WrestleMania. It was a good time.
I'm sure no one will object if we skip over that 10-women tag match.
No, actually, there's one thing I would like to say about that match, actually, just because one of the things that was the only reason why that match was special was when Vicky Guerrero went to the top and pointed to Eddie up in the cloud. Even though it looked corny, it was actually special. I don't think we actually saw a tribute from her ever while she's been this character. So to
that
me,
is the most bizarre tribute I think you could ever have for anything ever.
I think it's special that she never paid tribute to her husband, really, since he's been a character. And I thought the crowd knew what she was doing. And she never did it, and I thought that was probably good in a way. I mean, the match wasn't great, but I thought that moment was still pretty good. It was pretty respectful in a way to Eddie. So
yes,
that's how I interpret it.
Wasn't very good is another way of saying absolute horse shit. It's so pathetic that these, quote, athletes get in the ring to do one spot and they fuck it up.
Guerrero's not a wrestler, okay? That you can't.
I'm not talking about her specifically. I'm talking about like Alicia Fox and any of the cookie cutter blondes that get put in there. They're all fucking terrible. But anyway, so's the Mae Young, Gene Okerlund bullshit they do every year. So let's move on to the latter third. because the last hour or so I was really into, and it provided the stuff that I really enjoyed. Up until this point, it was an okay show, and the set was great and everything, blah, 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 but I think when it comes to WWE now, I'm just not that into it, because they put out stuff there that's okay, and their fan base, or people that may particularly like it better than me, are really into it, and to me it just washes off. But the last two matches I thought were stand-out incredible. And the first one was Batista and John Cena for the spinning belt, John Cena's belt that Batista had. And even though there were portions of the match that did make Botchamania, I thought they had a really great match at SummerSlam the other year. And to follow it up, maybe this one on a technical level wasn't as good as that one, but I think with the atmosphere, the entrance was awesome with the Marines and Cena, and especially the finish of the match when he got out to the anti-Cena fans and smiled with the shit-eating grin and the belt in front of him with the thumbs up. It was hilarious. And I think really for a match that would be this era's version of Hogan, Warrior, Rock, Austin, to have the two top faces that they've had representing the two shows with Batista, Cena, I thought this match really delivered. It was really good. And what can I say? Cena's the man. I know he gets a lot of hate from various forms of fans on the internet for various reasons. Maybe it's because I don't watch it every week that I'm not sick of him being shoved down our throats like I might be if I did watch it every week. But for checking in once a month or so, I really enjoyed this match. What do you guys think, Lawrence?
My only negative, my quick negative thought, and then everything else will be glowingly positive, is that it is unfortunate that the two top stars of this era having their big WrestleMania, blow-off, so to speak, for the championship, the right championship, is not the main event because there's something more important with other older wrestlers who probably should be in the twilight of their career. However,
that's actually where I disagree with you. I think they actually did the right thing for once this year, because how many times have we complained about not putting Rock, Austin, or like last year, Undertaker, Michaels in the main event?
I agree with that in this case because of the size and scope of Michaels, Undertaker too, that it had to be that way. But I'm just saying it's one of those moments where to not have that defining Cena era match with the defining opponent like Warrior, Hogan, Austin, Rock as a main event at WrestleMania. But I digress. Other than that, this match epitomizes why I love WrestleMania. You have the two top stars in the country and you have in the company, and it's for the title, and they go out there and exceed expectations, put on a really great match. Botchamania moments or whatever aside, I've seen that in other matches of the same size and scope, like Hogan Warrior or whatever. Excellent stuff all around. The right guy went over. And like you said, Cena's the man, but I got to give Batista credit too. He's been the man as well in recent months with his new character and had some pretty good matches as well. And I definitely enjoyed it. It was definitely worth it on that show.
All right. Looks like I lost Will for a minute. I'll try and get him back. But Sal, what'd you think?
Yeah, this match really exceeded my expectations. I've never been big on Batista, and I think that recently he's just been great on the mic and just a real asshole, and just been fantastic in his character. And John Cena is just terrific. Anybody who shits on John Cena is just a hater and is just a crybaby and whatever, because John Cena is terrific. He always delivers. He has a great personality. So what? He doesn't do 1,000 moves. Big deal. He goes out, he does what he needs to do, and this match definitely lived up to the build, which I think the build was terrific. And like Lawrence said, the right guy went over. It made sense. And, Batista really put Cena over strong and looked good in his loss. So I think they definitely did what they needed to do with this one.
Will, do we have you back?
I'm here. Am I here?
Yes. What do you think of Cena Batista?
First off, I gotta say spotlight. If no one gets that, that's Batista's gimmick now. Anyway, very good match. Again, Cena is the man. I don't care if you hate him. It actually made me like him even more. I hate to say it. I'm not gonna buy a T-shirt, but I have to say that definitely was good. When he went in front of the fans who didn't like him and he posed in front of them, he accepts his character, that he's not liked by everybody. He will react to people who don't like him. He will react to people who do like him. And we don't see that. Usually faces are supposed to stay away from those actual fans that hate him, but he does not. And he goes up to them. So no matter who the fan is, he'll interact with you no matter who it is, and that's what makes a star of a company, that he will interact with every fan if they hate him or like them. So that's the bottom line.
Chris?
Thank you. I really like the whole Batista reinvention because he was so stale. It just finally justifies him being in the main event for the first time in a while. It's been nothing but title shots for him for no reason. You know, even in Elimination Chamber, he gets a title shot for no reason. But this total reinvention was great. Although I do have to say that this one and the main event both suffered from it was better last year with the match itself, but the build-ups were much better this time.
They both brought it. This is the best WrestleMania match that Batista's ever had, in my opinion, as far as build-up and as far as the heel character just being on fire right now. And John Cena always seems to bring it at WrestleMania. He always brings his best game to the big show. And this was probably his biggest win out of WrestleMania, in my opinion, although he does have wins over Triple H and Shawn Michaels in the past. This match is huge. Yeah, this match is huge in so many ways for John Cena and his character, and he just keeps getting better. I really was a big fan of this match, and I hope that they deliver just as good of a match to Extreme Rules.
All right, guys, we're winding down on the show here, and we got one more match to go, the Shawn Michaels-Undertaker match. As much as I rip on Shawn Michaels on the show, personally, I'm not a fan of his. You can't deny that in the ring, he is definitely one of the greatest of all time. We'll be talking about his career specifically on our next taping, April 25th. But for this match, I was really glad that they put the match that was the true main event on last, which they usually don't. I love the Titanic video building up to this with the near, far music that they used or whatever. But I actually think that this match exceeded last year's. I thought the first half of last year's was kind of slow and boring. It was a great match. I'll give it that. And I think the near falls last year were better. I like the reversals better, the use of the finishers better, but I think the overall story and the pacing and action of this year was much better. I liked how it started off fast. I liked the retreads to previous matches, and of course the Ric Flair, I'm sorry, I love you finish was also pretty appropriate and good, and it made it poignant that they didn't have the recap video at the end and instead, in silence, followed Michaels out. I really like this match. What do you guys think, Lawrence?
I won't compare the two matches because I just see it as one match as part of one arc, and I think if I had to, I would say they were equal. In terms of those guys go out and they're always going to have an amazing match in this embodiment of them in 2008, 2009 era, Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. That being said, the match obviously was great, but to me the storyline, the arc of the Shawn Michaels character has been almost a fairly clean storyline, easy to follow since the Flair retirement angle and what his character has gone through with Jericho and Taker the first time and retiring Flair, etc. And I just I think the thing I want to focus on is that finish and how well constructed it was, tying the knot together, the neat package of how he ended Flair's career, and he's standing there toe-to-toe as the old dog needing to be put down once and for all, and just the mannerisms, the facial expressions, and then Undertaker finally having enough and doing what needed to be done, and then of course the next night tipping his hat to him, just beautiful. It's absolutely perfect. Nothing I'd change. That's what it's all about for me. That's why I watch wrestling.
Final thoughts, Sal.
The build up to this was just phenomenal, fantastic. The right match went on last, especially when you take into account the finish. The finish was just great. I'd love to know whose idea it was. Who have we ever seen bitch slap the Undertaker like that? It was like Shawn went down, but he went out so strong in his loss, and like you said, Eric, I think last year's match maybe was a better match in terms of the work rate or however you want to call it. But this match, I think, was just better in terms of completing the story and just really sucked me in. I was very emotional. I really enjoyed it.
I liked the match. I thought last year's was better, but it was still a great match. I can't deny that. I'm with you on the not liking Shawn Michaels, and it's really strange to think of it. Now he's gone in 2010. All those years where we just, I don't care if he's here or not, and now it's like, wow, he's really not here.
Yeah, the storytelling was phenomenal. It was a very emotional match. It had that emotional connection that you need in a WrestleMania main event specifically, and just in general in wrestling, something that's been missing for so long. Undertaker did a great job. You could tell he's in pain. He's not 100%. He did a phenomenal job, and so did Shawn Michaels, man. And he went out on a true high note, and hopefully this is a classy thing for him to do, and he doesn't come back tomorrow, or he doesn't come back next week. He'll stay out for a while, and he'll spend some time with his family, because he deserves it. He really busted his ass over the last few years with great match after great match, and especially at WrestleMania. He always comes out at WrestleMania and puts on his best performances. So bravo to them. It was a phenomenal match.
You're talking about two of the most dedicated workers to that company in the ring at the same time twice. You know, at the end of the show with two guys who have been busting for Vince McMahon for all these years, it's definitely one of the best matches. If you're any wrestling fan, you would enjoy that just because of the emotional involvement that every single fan probably had in that match. It wasn't about the match. It was about the emotional involvement of it. So to me, they told an amazing story again. Two of the best workers. It was phenomenal, and it was a pleasure to watch that match. And hopefully Shawn sticks to his word. I think he will, to not wrestle again. It makes it more credible that way. You know, so again, what else can you say about those two? There's not much else you could say. It was the best match of the night, and the right guy won the match.
Putting Shawn Michaels' career on the line versus the streak really added to the match, but I think they also missed out on a stipulation where if Shawn Michaels loses, he has to renounce Christ. But on that note, thank everybody for listening. I want to thank everyone on the panel: Lawrence Haber, Jay Aletto, Will Benitez, Chris Harris, Jason Aletto, I think I mentioned before, but I got thrown off by the Blog Talk Radio thing.
Do some plugs.
So, anyway, want to thank everyone for a very interesting first episode, and we hope to give you some more. So join us next week at 11 p.m. at blogtalkradio.com/Wrestling Roundtable. Also, don't forget to join us on WrestlingRoundtable.com. You can request us on MySpace, Facebook, join us on Twitter, watch full episodes on Go Fight Live, and this show will be archived on Blog Talk Radio, iTunes, and on YouTube as well. And join us next week, WrestlingRoundtable.com.